Hey everybody, welcome back to Lots of Stories. I am here again with one of my favorite storytellers, Faith Schwartz.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, Faith.
You're welcome.
Faith runs a storytelling group that she's going to tell us a little bit about.
Yes, it's Maggie's Porch. It's a monthly storytelling potluck. We're on Facebook. You can find us.
I was lucky enough to have the chance to go once. I'm looking forward to going again soon. It's a really great opportunity to sit around with people and just tell stories, listen to stories.
It's really low key. It's not, you're not slamming, you're not
on a
wondering
stage.
if you're going to be on, you know. It's just in our homes. We pay enough rent already. We should use each other's homes and have each other over.
Yeah, it's a really nice atmosphere, and it was really fun for me because when I went, a lot of people told personal stories, and then there's like, I made up a fiction story, and hearing other people's personal stories were amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was phenomenal to hear what people have been through. So
It was fun.
it's really fun. I mean, because especially if people are new to you, learning about their lives is just, you know, you never know what someone's life is just by looking at them. You know, you really have to listen. So it's a great event.
Right. That's why we make it a potluck, too. Everybody brings a little something to eat, and we kind of eat a little bit and just schmooze and get to know each other before going right into the stories.
Yeah, so it's not like, it's a very relaxing environment. It's, like you said, it's not like you're on. It's like you have some thoughts to share them, you know? Which is also pretty much what the show is about. So, you know, I appreciate it. All right, we're going to get started telling stories.
Okay.
All right, we're mixing up the format right now, and I'm going to pick words for Faith. So, Faith, your first word is cool, C-O-O-L.
Okay.
And your second word is lightning, L-I-G-H-T-N-I-N-G.
Kind of, but you got the same number of letters.
What did I say? Do I not know how to spell?
No, you're right. I'm sorry. I was thinking of lighting. I was spelling lighting.
Okay, yeah, lightning.
We got it. Okay.
We got it. Okay.
Let's see. Let's get this squiggly thing
This
here.
squiggle. Okay. All right. You got love letter, which is
Love letter, cool lightning is the words.
So the concept of the love letter category is basically just, and obviously it's all suggestion, but the concept is to pick someone to just say words of appreciation to. It could be someone you know personally, or just someone like a celebrity, a politician, someone out in the world who you think favorably about, and you know, say it as if you're talking to them.
I never say things like that to people, but
I know
this could be a first, and it's going to have to be anonymous. I don't want that person finding me and saying, "Hey, baby, I got some cool lightning for you."
Oh yeah, you don't have to.
Although that wouldn't be too bad either.
You don't have to say their names if you don't like. If it's someone you know, but I put in this category because I am not always so adept at saying positive things to people. So I'm working on it, and I was like, this will give me an opportunity to be in appreciation mode for other people.
So it's a love letter story.
Yeah, it's just.
I'm thinking of these old, like when Lord Byron and you know those letters. And
I have definitely never attempted anything.
I have.
Like
I just glanced over them, but they can be pretty involved. So I'm just getting my brain working.
Yeah, and if this helps, I have gotten that twice, and I've had a guest get it once. Mine have both been about celebrities, and the guest was also about a celebrity. So it's, it doesn't have to be. It just seems easier in a way. I don't know, to me, but it's whatever works.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna give Faith a couple moments, and we'll be right back.
I wanted to go back to my childhood and say thank you to Phil and Paul, who ran the candy store in the corner where I grew up in the Bronx. And they were always there. They were always open. They always let us slide if we didn't have money for candy, for that extra piece of bubble gum. They never seemed to notice when I would slip a True Confessions magazine inside 16 magazine and just pay for the 16 magazine so you couldn't see me reading the romance magazine. This was a time when there were no websites, there were no computers, or anything. It was all just print media. And I want to thank you for keeping it out there. We went right down the block, and there was a big newsstand with all the magazines, all the languages, all the newspapers, and all the candy laid out on the counter and inside. And way in the back was the comic book rack. I was stuck on the Archies. And I don't know what else. Richie Rich, Little Lulu. It's funny now, but you brought me a world of reading when I couldn't get to the library. It was where I spent my little change allowance to buy my comic books, to buy my Nestle's Crunch, to get an egg cream. Yes, Phil and Paul, you gave us egg creams. It was the Bronx. We needed our seltzer, our milk, a little shot of vanilla or chocolate. Fox's, you bet. And we mixed that up. And me and a couple of friends with, 3 straws finished that egg cream. So I want to thank you for that egg cream, Phil. Thank you for the egg cream, Paul. Thank you for looking away when I snuck the dirty magazines inside the teeny bopper magazines. Thanks for giving us the Daily News and the Village Voice, which has gone out of print. And thanks for bringing us the world on that little candy store. It was another time and another place, a newsstand made of wood. And it was falling apart. And so was your store, and they were raising your rent. And eventually you left, but you gave us a lot of memories of all us kids in the neighborhood going there to get our candy, to get our sugar fix, to get our comics, to get our pseudo trashy magazines and our teeny bopper magazines. And I want to thank you for being so cool and for taking care of us, like letting us come in when it was raining and lightning out and we were scared. You had to come in, you let us stay there until our mothers came home to pick us up. These were all good things, Phil and Paul. You're long gone. And so am I, but I thank you.
Thanks, Faith, for that story.
You're welcome.
I related to so much in it.
Yeah.
I grew up in Queens. I had my local comic book store. It wasn't the same. There wasn't a soda fountain, but I certainly grew up with an egg cream, I was the biggest Archie Comics person. Like,
oh my
everyone,
God. Thank
if anyone,
God somebody else was. Yeah.
if anyone in my family is watching this, like, as soon as they heard you say that, they will laugh because I was a voracious Archie comic reader, and I learned amazing words from it. I learned the word euphemism from Archie Comics in 4th grade. Like, people were really impressed when I said that word. I loved the characters. I loved the like all-American quality, which like wasn't really what. Not that my life was like absolutely not that, but I didn't go to public school, and I, you know, my grandparents and my mother were immigrants, so like that that like classic Americana Norman Rockwell wasn't my, you know, and I just loved it.
Yeah. It was that too. It was like the gang you wanted to be part of when you grew up to be a teenager. You
Exactly.
know? You know, who was your favorite character?
What a good question. I think it changed over time. I really loved Betty, always. I loved Jughead, aside from when he was mean to Midge, I believe. I just felt like he was really cold to her. Like, I know that he didn't want... Like, she was very persistent.
Big Ethel. That was Big Ethel.
Oh, Big Ethel.
Remember?
Sorry. Yeah. And, right, so who's Midge? I don't know.
There was another Midge.
There was a Midge, right? Okay. Right, he didn't... I get it, like, if someone's maybe verged into harassment for him, but I also felt like she was sensitive and he was kind of cruel sometimes. But aside from that, I just liked that he was kind of unflappable and other people's concerns didn't get to him.
Yeah, I liked Jughead too. He like was kind of like the Maynard G. Krebs, if you know Maynard G. like the resident beatnik of Riverdale High.
Oh, from Dobie Gillis?
Yeah, Dobie Gillis. It's
so funny because for the longest time, I didn't know him. I didn't really think about him as Gilligan. I thought him as a beatnik, and I was like, beatniks are so cool. Like, I want to. When I grow up, I want to like hang out with like people wearing black turtlenecks and berets. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. I did. Then they were all borrowing money from me, so I had to stop. But you know, whatever. But yes, that.
But the vibe of it, like
the vibe of the nonconformity.
Yeah,
the creativity, nonconformity.
Exactly, and also just the commitment to your inner vision. You know, and like really just being like, these are the thoughts in my head. Let's explore them, because I feel like in. It is funny because it's kind of the opposite of what I loved about Archie comics. Like with Archie comics, it was like, this is the gang you can hang out with.
Yeah.
And with that, it's like, and this is how you be your own little weirdo, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I remember making a Jughead hat out of like a,
I
didn't know what those were. And it was like probably something they did more in the 1930s, you know, because Archie, I think, started in the 1930s. I had one from the 1930s. It was similar, you know, except they jitterbugged instead of whatever, did disco dancing, whatever. You cut it up and stuff.
One thing I actually loved about the digests was that they would put in different comics from different eras, so you'd actually see the different drawing styles, as opposed to the taller, skinnier ones, the ones that are more like what you think of as a comic book that you can put in like the plastic sleeve like that. I felt like the digest gave you styles from all different eras.
Yeah.
And then they'd throw in other things like Katie Keene and the Blossoms and stuff. And I know there's that show Riverdale now on the CW, but I can't watch it. And I love television, don't get me wrong, but because I'm so committed to my classic way of relating to Archie.
Yeah, I think they just extrapolated so much. I don't know why they didn't just...
Yeah, I don't need that kind of darkness. Like, there's enough going on in their own... inner turmoil.
Yeah, that's why I watched Archie. You watch it as an escape. I mean, I read Archie and the cartoons later, because it was an escape. It was like fun, happy stuff. It brought you up. So I don't know. I don't know why that was done, but
I'm with you. But you know,
popular.
I respect everyone for making whatever work is their vision. It's just for me, like if I love one, like the original work, then it's very hard for me to want to connect to the derivative work.
Yeah, derivative is a good term, because I don't know why. I don't know. It just seems so different that it's not it. So why do it? But
whatever. But we have the love of Archie comics in common, which we didn't know till right now. So that's exciting. Wow. And the egg cream, which of course, New York City staple.
Yep.
And I just love what you said about Paul and Phil, because I think the people who who run those kinds of stores, you know, obviously those stores are closing up. There's so fewer of them now.
Yeah.
And it was just, I think, really memorable and really nice to feel like where you shop is part of your community.
Yeah, they were like the vibe of the community, and people came and went, and they just kept things. You know, there's a movie by, I think, Jim Jarmusch called Smoke, about a candy store in Brooklyn, and it's starring Harvey Keitel, and all these other people show up in it. And I recommend that movie to get an idea of what a store like that is.
Also, and I haven't been there in a while, and it's a little different than what you're talking about, but there's an old-fashioned ice cream shop on Metropolitan Avenue in Queens. Pretty sure it's called Eddie's. And I haven't been there in a long time, but I remember one time that I went with my father after we saw a movie nearby. I must have been a teenager at the time, I don't know, and I just felt like you were walking into the 1950s. Like, not that I would necessarily know, but it just kind of felt like when in Back to the Future, when Marty McFly is back in the 50s and the first time he walks into the diner, that's how I felt walking in there. It just felt so cool and weird, because out of time, out of the time of my life.
Like, was everything wooden? I love a wooden counter.
I don't remember if
wooden
everything
shelves.
was wooden, but there was the tiles on the floor were in a checkerboard pattern, and there was marble top tables, old-fashioned furniture. And if I recall correctly, they had little dollhouse or miniature furniture and stuff. I just seem to really remember miniature balloons, and they were so bright and colorful, and I was really taken with that. And it just kind of felt like sprinkles in balloon form or something. And and the real thing is just, getting some ice cream in an old dish with in the shapes that you don't see around all the time. Yeah. You just feel like you're traveling to another time, and also that it can still exist. Do you know what I mean? That things don't have to always move so fast. Yeah, no. Those places are where people want to go. And we live in such different times that, it's order in or order ahead with the app, and then you go in there and only the people with the app are ahead of you. It's just getting crazy out there. And we just need the human touch. Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually kind of the amazing thing about New York City, because even if we are, and I am all the time always in my phone, but at the same time, in this city, more than so many other places, you're constantly interacting with people. And you can also just go back home or go to whatever spot to be by yourself, but there's so much energy and connection even in the smallest moments. So, so it's a good city. Yeah, it is. All right, Faith, help me figure out what story I'm going to tell, please. Okay. All right, so you're going to pick, here, all right. I'll give you the fortune teller. You're going to pick my words also. Okay. Okay, your first word is going to be shoebox. Okay. S-H-O-E-B-O-X. And your second word is going to be daisy. D-A-I-S-Y. Okay. And I'm going to have to pick something different than what you just got. Yeah. That's too similar. Too similar. I know. Well, we could always put it back and do the other one, right? No, it's okay. Okay, I'll take that one. Fairy tale. Okay. All right. Fairy tale, shoebox, daisy. All right, we'll be right back. Layla was sitting in her room one day, and she was really, really bored. It was a gray, gloomy, rainy day. She did not want to go outside, which was her favorite thing, was to play in the backyard. And she was just kind of miserable. She was starting to crawl the walls with boredom. She opened the closet. At the top of it, she found a shoebox. And she said, I don't recognize that. I wonder what that is. finally, something to capture her attention. So she climbed up to get it down. It looked like it was going to fall on her head, but it didn't. She sat back down with her back against the bed, cross-legged, and the shoebox was on her lap. She opened the shoebox, and in it was a daisy. You'd think if you found a box with a daisy in it that the daisy would be dried. But somehow, even though this daisy was not connected to the earth and was not in a vase full of water, it was completely fresh and alive. Layla had no idea how this could be, but she was intrigued. She reached into the box and took hold of the daisy in both hands, holding it like as if it was a magic wand that you'd have to really grip. And as she held it and sat there straight, sparkles started to flutter in the room. And as gray as it was outside, there were bright embers starting to build. And her room was full of light all of a sudden, but it wasn't light like from the sun. It was light like from a burning campfire. It wasn't burning. Her room was completely safe. But she had to follow the light, so she kept gripping onto the daisy. And it was almost as if when she walked closer to what felt like a fire, she was walking into that center yellow part of the daisy. And she just walked and kept walking into it. And all of a sudden, she was just surrounded by a warm yellow brightness. She could feel herself rising up as if she was part of a flower that was blooming. And all of a sudden, it was pitch black. And she's still moving without moving. She herself was not moving, but everything was around her, and it's black. And she sees one of the petals on this daisy sparkling as white as a star. And she heard a voice that said, "Layla, we've been waiting for you." And as she looked at that petal of the daisy that was sparkling, she saw it was lots of little white sparkles. And they all started growing bigger and bigger. And it turned out it was 12 fairies. Each one looked like a different flower. Each one had a different look entirely, different colors, different hair, different petal dresses. And suddenly she was surrounded by them, as if you were surrounded in a garden of flowers, but it was a garden of fairies. Pitch black, but with bright colors surrounding her. She had no idea what to say or do. She was just clutching that daisy. And their voices got louder and louder, and they said, "Layla, we've been waiting for you because we know you've wanted to be outside and play in the garden. And we know you're bored at home in the rain. But we just wanted you to know that we've loved so much that you take care of us, that you make sure that our soil is turned and that we're watered. And even when you're inside, bored on a day like this, because you can't look at us, we hope you'll remember that we need these days, we need this rain. So you always keep us company when you come outside, and we wanted to keep you company and join you inside." And Layla smiled, and she knew she wasn't alone, and even if she was bored, there was a reason this time. She hung out with the fairies for a while, and she walked back through that fiery yellow. She went back to bed, and she had the best dreams. The end. Thanks for listening to my story, Faith.
Oh, that was great. That was, well, that was like a guided meditation, with Layla. And, you know, and I liked the way it ended. It was sweet. It was like almost like what you would tell a child about gardening, about taking care of things, any project really, you know.
Yeah, I always have to remind myself, I get very impatient very quickly, so I have to remind myself that sometimes there are reasons that things aren't going exactly the way I want them to. So, you know.
Yeah.
I was also thinking a little bit about the Phantom Tollbooth, I think, as I started to tell the story, because it starts out with Milo, the main character, just being really bored. And then he goes on this like amazing adventure and
interesting. I was thinking of where the wild things are. Because he's in his room and then this stuff happens and he's back home.
That's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense too. I love those kinds of stories. I never have managed to outgrow them. So
yeah, no, I think as storytellers we need to know, this is a great way to try different genres so that we can, you know, just vary our form and how we say things. A lot of Moth style slams and such. I love the Moth, but a lot of it's just the personal narrative, and that's very popular now. But I like the creativity that other genres bring. You know, when you have to think about a third person and take them on a journey.
Yeah, I enjoy all the different kinds of stories. I will say there's some kinds of stories that are a little less for me, like horror is not. I don't really like to be scared. I'm scared enough in the world. It's not thrilling to me. But, you know, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, whether it's like something historical or personal or, you know, I really love mythology. That's kind of my go-to thing. But there's something interesting in all of it. So, you know.
Yeah, I was thinking, I liked horror when I was a child because, you know, I didn't know, you don't know that bad things can happen so much. At least I had a decent enough childhood that
I was very aware that bad things can happen all the time because, you know this, but my grandparents are Holocaust survivors. So and I'm the youngest of 3 in my branch of the family, the youngest of 6 among my cousins who I grew up with in Queens. And I mean, not the youngest, the second youngest. Sorry, Josh. But because I was on the younger scale of it, I think it was really important in my family that in my generation we were all educated about it. But I think I may have been educated a little bit as if I was older than I was. So I was very aware from a young age. Yeah. I think I started having nightmares about Holocaust stuff when I was 5 or something.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, so you were genuinely, I had, I'm also Jewish, and you know, but my grandfather had passed away. But I'm the youngest of, you know, a bunch, and but he came from pogroms. You know, he escaped Russia from the pogroms. That's not, you know, that's a further back in history, so it's not as fresh as, you know, that more recent history.
And I think a lot of how trauma goes down through the generations. Some of it is about like what is, how recently a relative it happened to, so that you heard the stories personally from them. And some of it is not. Some of it is about are your conditions or the conditions of your family, like repeating some of the things from the past that were horrifying. So this is actually the reason why I don't love horror, is because I truly, from a young age, was like very aware of horrors in the world. And I remember like reading books, like children's books, but historical children's books about slavery or about how Native Americans are treated, things like that. And I was just like, this world, there have been horrible things. Like, I don't need help being scared. That's, you know, history has done that for me. So anyway, but I know there are a lot of horror fans out there, and I know that there are a lot of people who find it as a really good escape. Also.
Good escape, and maybe empowering in some way.
Yeah.
If, you know, you're able to face Frankenstein or, I don't know, any recent, I like old movies.
But actually, you know, Get Out was, for example, like a really powerful horror movie that did, I mean, I shy away from watching almost all horror movies.
Yeah, that was the last one I had to watch.
Yeah, because it was, it really was reflecting on the horror of reality. So, you know, anyway, my point is I'm a scaredy cat. That's why I don't watch things. But I do like lots of different genres, and I think they all have their value and their merit. So it's nice to be able to try out the different ways of telling stories.
Cool.
All right, Faith, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thanks so much, Talia.
It's a lot of fun. All right, well, we'll see you again at the next Lots of Stories.